All right, we're continuing in the Sanusi Creed. I was about to say Nasafi Creed. The last thing we spoke about was the nawiyyah attributes. Nawiyyah is a derivative. The word nawiyyah is a derivative of the word ma'na. And as you know, Allah has ma'ani attributes. So ma'ani is the plural of ma'na. And we're going to call the ma'ani attributes the existential attributes, meaning they have existence. Okay. So ma'ani attributes, they have existence. They mean something more than mere existence. The ma'ani attributes mean something more than mere existence. That's why they're called ma'ani, meanings. Life, knowledge, power, will, hearing, sight, speech, and everlastingness. Now, I have a wording here that I wanted to think about for a second here. So it says, then there are 7 attributes called ma'nawiyyah. Then it says conceived. Yes, they are conceived. Now, so the word ma'nawiyyah, it is itself derivative of the word ma'na. But then we translated ma'na as existential. And here we translated ma'nawiyyah as conceived. So ma'nawiyyah means derived from the ma'ani. Yani, these mean they are derived from the existential attributes. Derived from the existential attributes. What does this mean? Let me remind you what these words mean. So Allah Ta'ala, as you know, has 13 attributes that are obligatory on every accountable person to know. Existence, that's the self attribute. Independence, dissimilarity, oneness, yani existence, that's the self attribute. Independence, oneness, dissimilarity, and eternality. Those are the negating attributes. So, quick clarification for you here. Maybe it's already clear for you. What does it mean to say these 4 are negating attributes? It means that they don't confirm something for Allah more than the self. They don't confirm. The word confirm here is very important so that you don't misunderstand. They don't confirm something for Allah more than or other than the self. I gave you an example last time. If I told you the wall is not tall, it's not wide, it's not thick, it's not black, so I'm negating, denying. It's not this, it's not that, it's not this, it's not that. So I'm denying. So what did I confirm about the wall other than the fact that it exists? Other than the fact that it is a wall that exists, what did I confirm about it? Nothing, because I told you it's not tall. That doesn't mean I confirm that it's short. Not explicitly. Not explicitly. Implicitly, I confirm that it's short. If it's not tall, if I say it's not tall, it's not wide, it's not thick, then what I'm doing is I'm describing, but not by way of a confirmation. Rather, I'm just denying. My way of describing here is by denial. And if I am denying here, that means I'm not confirming. So what am I confirming about the wall? Other than the fact that it is a wall, nothing. I'm not confirming anything about it. Whereas if I were, so that's called salbiya. Attributes that deny or negate are called negating attributes. So Allah has sifat salbiya, negating attributes, which means He does not need anything. He does not have a partner. He does not have a similar. He does not have a beginning. So these attributes are not confirming something more than itself. So that's called salbiyah attributes, negating attributes. Then he has ma'ani attributes. The ma'ani attributes are meanings. What does it mean that they are meanings? It means they mean something beyond mere existence. They mean something beyond mere existence. What are they? Everlastingness, according to the strong saying, not according to the author Sanusi. The author Sanusi counted everlastingness as a negating attribute. We're counting it as an existential attribute. Existence, life, knowledge, power, will, sight, hearing, and speech, that makes 8 attributes that are existential attributes. And that's all 13 attributes there. The self attribute, the negating attributes, and the existential attributes. The total of this count is 13. Then there's 7 more, or 8 more. Yani, I told you also that there's a difference amongst the people of the prophetic way concerning the attribute of everlastingness. Is it a negating attribute, and therefore would mean it's a denial that he comes to an end? It means he does not end. Or the people of the prophetic way, they differed about the attribute of everlastingness. Some say it is a negating attribute, and some say it is an existential attribute. If you say it's a negating attribute, then that means there's 5 negating attributes, not 4, and 7 existential attributes, not 8. And that would mean that when you say he's attributed with everlastingness, it means you're saying he does not end. When you say, though, if you take the position that everlastingness is an existential attribute, then this means that the negating attributes are 4, not 5, and that the existential attributes are 8, not 7. And that by saying that everlastingness is an existential attribute, then it means it is a confirmation of his existence. And this is the case. So everlastingness is an existential attribute, and therefore the existential attributes are 8. But this author, he goes according to saying there are 7. And that's a famous saying. But what I just told you is more accurate saying. Even if you remember in Al-Fiqh al-Akbar by Abu Hanifa, he mentions everlastingness with the negating attributes, not with the existential ones. Now, the nawiyyah attributes are the attributes that are derived from the ma'ani attributes. Therefore, whatever saying you take that there's 7 ma'ani attributes or 8 ma'ani attributes, then the ma'nawiyyah attributes will be 7 or 8, whichever way you go. What are they? His being powerful, and a willer, and a knower, and alive, and a hearer, and a seer, and a speaker. That's 7. And according to the saying we are supporting, and everlasting. What does it mean that these attributes are derived from the other ones? Because you say he has everlastingness, he therefore is everlasting. He has life, he therefore is alive. He has knowledge, he therefore is knower. He has power, he therefore is powerful. So when I say he has, that's the attribute that no one disagrees about. None of the people of the prophetic way disagree about these attributes. He has will, therefore is a willer. He has hearing, therefore is a hearer. Whatever comes after the word and therefore, when I say and therefore, that's the derivative one, not the original meaning. Why is it called here conceived in the translation? Because I was telling you also, these ones, their confirmation is by our mental conception. Here is where you talk about some things like numbers. You conceive numbers. You conceive 1, 2, 3, etc. All of those are conceived to you, yani, in such a way that as if they are real. If someone were to ask you, are numbers real? You'll probably say, yeah, numbers are real. What is the meaning of your question if numbers are real? But if you know this knowledge here and someone asks you, are numbers real? Then you might say, not beyond our mental conception. What does that mean? Numbers are not real beyond our mental conception. What does this mean? Mean not confirmed, not having a confirmed existence beyond our mere mental conception. Therefore, you're not going to go on some expedition with a machete, chopping through the woods, chopping through the vines in the jungle, so that you can come across the great number 4 in some temple somewhere, like you're a tomb raider. There is no number 4 somewhere, number 2 somewhere, number 12 somewhere. These numbers, their existence is by our mental consideration, not beyond that. So the numbers, their existence is conceived, is a conceived existence or a concept. These attributes, these nawiyyah attributes, their explanation is like what I just told you. Meaning, what is it that really exists beyond our mental conception? The attributes, the ma'ani attributes. We don't say his knowledge is a construct of our minds merely. No. His knowledge is a real attribute with real existence. It is not something confined to our mental conception. His life, his knowledge, his power, his will, these attributes, they truly exist without a place and without being parts or pieces. Well, what about his being alive? This here, that's a step, a mental step on our part. For the Ma'ani attributes, our minds do confirm them. We would say in our minds, even a kafir who never heard of Islam, he would say, for example, God must be alive. God must know everything. He doesn't even know how he knows. You just say, I don't know. God must know everything. He's got to know everything. He hears everything and sees everything. So God's attributes of life, knowledge, power, will, sight, hearing, speech, those are not concepts, mere concepts. Rather, those have real existence beyond ourselves. Beyond means not an idea within ourselves. Our ideas and thoughts are attributes of ourselves. So those ma'ani attributes, their existence is not limited to what we conceive in ourselves: life, knowledge, power, will, sight, hearing, speech, and everlastingness. Rather, they exist truly beyond ourselves without a place. Whereas once we confirm those meanings, then from there our minds work. Then our minds will say, if he has life, then he must be alive. If he has knowledge, then he must be a knower. If he has hearing, then he must be a hearer. So the life and the knowledge and the hearing, those attributes, they exist beyond ourselves. But there's a mental judgment from these attributes. That mental judgment, that's what's meant here by saying the nawiyyah are the conceived attributes. They are in concept derivative from the first seven. If you have a question, feel free, please. I believe it was this lesson also that I mentioned for you that life is the musahih, the validator of the rest of the ma'ani attributes. But I did not mean to include everlastingness in that generality there. So, in case you took note of that, not everlastingness, other than everlastingness. Life is the validator of knowledge, will, power, hearing, sight, and speech. Not everlastingness, though. So, everlastingness is an existential attribute, and life is an existential attribute. And the other six, that's knowledge, power, will, hearing, sight, and speech, they are existential attributes. Life is the validator of the ma'ani attributes, except these ma'ani attributes. I mean, life, knowledge. Knowledge, power, will, sight, hearing, and speech. Life is the validator of these attributes, not everlastingness, though. Okay. Any question here? The author says, Rahimahullah ta'ala, ومما يستحيل في حقه تعالى 20 صفة. And among what is impossible concerning him, exalted is he, are 20 attributes. وهي أضداد العشرين الأولى. 20 attributes contrary to the first 20. So they are al-adam, non-existence. Yani. So therefore, if the attribute, if an attribute is impossible to attribute to Allah because it's the opposite of an attribute of His, then that's called, the one that's His attribute is called a self, an attribute of the self, an attribute of the self. So we have a lot of words here. Let's look at our words here. So we have existence. First of all, we have, I'm going to just type in English here. Sifat, sifatu that. Attributes of the self. Okay. First one is the self attribute the self attribute, which is existence. As-sifatu nafsiyah, the self attribute. So you have attributes of the self and you have the self attribute. So don't be confused here. Attributes of the self, those are the ones that their opposites are impossible to attribute to Allah. The self attribute is the attribute that refers to his very self. Then you have, actually, let me letter these. So you have the self attribute. Then you have the negating attributes. Well, what are those? Those are independence, oneness, dissimilarity, and eternality. Yeah, I can hear like this. Then you have the existential attributes. Those are everlastingness, life, knowledge, power, will, hearing, sight, and speech. So there's your 13 attributes. 3 categories. Difference in opinion being here, number 6. Is it a negating attribute or an existential attribute? So we're going to say it's existential. And what about this attribute of life? The attribute of life is musahih, the validator of the ones that are after it. Knowledge, power, will, hearing, sight, and speech. Meaning, you don't say that what lacks life knows. You don't say that what lacks life hears or sees or speaks. Nor do you say that what lacks life is ignorant or deaf or blind or mute. Life is the validator of all of those meanings. The meaning of life is the validator of the meanings of knowledge and ignorance and power and weakness and will and uh, compulsion and hearing and deafness and sight and blindness and speech and muteness. But then, so this is a matter of agreement amongst the people of the prophetic way. The 13, I mean, not where everlastingness goes. But then, according to some of the people of the prophetic way, there's another category, nawiyyah, which I called, and maybe there's better way. If someone has better words, feel free to offer them. As of now, I'm just calling them conceived. nawiyyah attributes. And those are following the ma'ani attributes. So then you're going to say, his being everlasting and alive and a knower and powerful and a willer, or someone who's willing, or a hearer, seer, speaker. How I came up with 21. His being everlasting, alive, knower, powerful, willer. Because he's not counting, and those who say 20 in this way, they're not counting everlastingness here. Yani, if you count everlastingness as an existential attribute, you're going to have 8. Then, as a result, you're going to have 8 conceived attributes. If you don't count everlastingness here under the existential attributes, then you're not going to count it here, and that's going to leave you with just 7 conceived attributes. So, is this clear? Everlastingness proves his being everlasting. Life proves his being alive. Knowledge proves his being a knower. So these are the derivative. Wait. All of those are attributes of the self. The opposite of any of those attributes is impossible to attribute to Allah, and that's what Imam Sanusi wants to address now. So he said, وَمِمَّا يَسْتَحِيلُ فِي حَقِّهِ تَعَالَى عَشْرُونَ الصِّفَةً. Among what is impossible concerning him, exalted is he, are 20 attributes. وَهِيَ أَضْدَادُ الْعِشْرِينَ الْأُولَى. They are 20 attributes that are contrary to the first 20. وَهِي, and they are الْعَدَمُ وَالْحُدُوثُ let's check this word here. Non-existence, createdness, and vanishing. Non-existence is the opposite of existence. Createdness is the opposite of having of having no beginning. Vanishing is the opposite of having no end. وَالْمُمَاثَلَةُ لِلْحَوَادِثِ, and comparability to created things. That's the opposite of dissimilarity. But now he elaborates under this point. بِأَنْ يَكُونَ جِرْمًا, by something being volume, filling a space. Yani, you cannot compare Allah to something of volume. أي تأخذ ذاته العلية قدرا من الفراغ, i.e., for his high self to take up an amount of space. أو يكون عرضا يقوم بالجرم, or existing by extension of some volume, or existing by extension of some volume. Yani, like colors. Colors exist by extension of your own volume. You are someone or something that has volume, fills a space. Your color does not fill its own space. It exists by extension of you. Your movement does not fill its own space. It exists by extension of you. No. أو يتصف بالصغر أو الكبر أو يتصف بالأغراض في الأفعال أو الأحكام. Or for him to be in a direction that's contrary to his dissimilarity. So that's why we are baffled, mind blown at Wahhabis, that they can't understand. That clearing Allah from a place is not denying his existence, it's denying his similarity to created things. And the weaknesses of their own minds, they can't conceive something existing without being in a place. So, or for him to be in a direction from something that has substance, because directions are relative, they are for comparison. We're now talking about how he's not like anything. So, or for him to be in a direction from something that has substance, or for him to have his own direction. Yani, if we were to suppose that God is in a direction even if nothing else existed, that's blasphemy and that's impossible. Because directions inherently are for comparison. Let's stop here, inshallah ta'ala. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك